Quick note, I know Commissioner Hodgson is stuck in traffic and he will be here in a moment. I am unsure about Commissioner Temple. I don't know if anybody's heard from him.
I have not.
I was expecting him.
He's coming down 89, he's stuck in traffic.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So I would say we can do our initial action items and get going on this nevertheless. Welcome, Commissioner. There will be a meeting of the New Hampshire Fish and Game Commission on Tuesday, June 16th, 2026 at 1 p.m. at the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Please be advised that this meeting is being captured on video. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris?
The public is entitled to attend all commission meetings, and when recognized by the chairman, the public may speak on any item on the agenda. The chairman reserves the right to limit public comments to the extent necessary for an orderly conduct of the meeting. First action item, approval of the May 19th, 2026 commission minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? The motion is to approve the May 19th meetings. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 2, consent agenda. The following items have been grouped together and noticed as consent agenda items to expedite action on routine matters which may not require public discussion. Commission members may remove certain items if further public input or discussion is deemed necessary. 2A, approval to accept the following donations totaling $103.95 made to the small gifts and donations account. Susan Ducey of North Billerica for $75. Jean Susie, Londonderry, New Hampshire for $17. Lisbon Stump Jumpers of Lisbon, New Hampshire for $6.70. John Olson of Epsom, New Hampshire for $4.75. Nicholas Levesque, Claremont, New Hampshire for 50 cents. 2B, what's that? I know, it's a cork in our authorities. Approval to accept the following donations totaling $250 made to the hunting program in memory of Ken Matson, Campton, New Hampshire. Al and Bonnie Rivioli and Connie Biot, Bethel, Connecticut, $75. Rick and Kathy Flannery, Hill, New Hampshire, $50. Rose Norberg, Brooklyn, Connecticut for $50. And Mr. and Mrs. Donald Chase, Brooklyn, Connecticut, $50. And Robert and Sherry Sinclair, Plymouth, New Hampshire for $25. 2C, approval to accept the donation of $250 made to the Hunter Education Program from the Trappers Association for the use and purchasing new targets for Bear Brook Archery Range. 2D, approval to accept the donation of $125 from Friends of Whitney Community Center in Jackson, New Hampshire, made to the Wildlife Division to be utilized for bear management. And 2E, approval to accept the following donations totaling $2,200 made to the Search and Rescue account, Belknap County Sportsman Club in the amount of $2,000. That's a Hike Safe donation. Lee and Susan Lapiri, $100, and James Wilson, $100. And last, 2F, approval to accept the fly fishing collection by Stoddard's Custom Fly Tires, Jim Leaks, and Bill Wilbur, valued at approximately $750, donated by Kevin Durham Fisher of Exeter, New Hampshire. Do I have a motion to accept items 2A through 2F?
Motion for items 2A through 2F.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor of approving items 2A through 2F, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. All right, financial statement. Kathy, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Director Simic. We are quickly approaching the end of the fiscal year, so it all comes down to that date of June 30th. Your financial statement, though, is dated May 31st, so we have one more month to go. So if you would turn to page 3, please, because we have no changes on page 1 or 2. I'll just briefly go over where we are. The bottom half of the page indicates we're slightly behind where we were exactly a year ago. So the end of this month, when we true up everything, we'll see if we came within budget or close to budget. As far as licenses, we still have an issue with the interest on our savings account. I have been diligently trying to work with Treasury. What has occurred is all of the ARPA money that came into the state, and Fish and Game was a very large recipient of ARPA money. So what happens with our Fish and Game fund balance, which is what the interest is based on, our Fish and Game fund balance is way, way, way understated, because when those expenses are made through the ARPA program, which now we're in the millions of dollars for the fish hatchery project, those funds do not come back to Fish and Game. So it's really throwing off the balance in the Fish and Game fund. And both the Bureau of Financial Reporting and Treasury and myself are trying to get what would be the balance in the Fish and Game fund if we take out all of those other variables. So we will have a solution by June 30th or within the 2 weeks after that, I assure you. So we will no longer have a negative number there, but what that solution is, I cannot say at this time. All I know is what the problem is, not the solution yet. And back down onto federal recoveries, indirect cost, we actually have caught up all the way through the end of March, not reflected on this financial statement, but we have caught up on payroll all the way through the end of March. And we will catch up to the end of June by the end of the fiscal year. Speaking of the end of the fiscal year, I did supply you with the one-page expense report for your budget within the Fish and Game operating budget, and I just want to provide you with a friendly reminder. Mr. Chairman told me I could do this as far as reimbursements. Any reimbursements that you have not submitted from last July 1st through May 31st have to be submitted to me by this Friday for payment out of this year's budget. If at all possible, you can see that there is remaining balance in the travel account for mileage. If at all possible, if you could submit reimbursement for today, that would be greatly appreciated as well. May I entertain any questions?
I know accountants get asked this sort of question all the time. With respect to the ARPA explanation that you gave, is it possible, because people do ask that sort of thing, you know?
What kind of people?
Constituents.
Okay.
All right, and they know less about it than maybe some of us do, but is it possible to reduce the explanation to about 4 sentences about why this isn't showing the way you'd like to see it be shown with respect to, the interest thing? Is it possible to do that?
You're asking a talker to reduce the amount of talking? I can absolutely put a full effort into that.
And I'm only asking, okay? So, please don't turn yourself inside out.
The ARPA funds greatly inflated our budget,
Yeah,
right? So as those expenses are going out the door, no money is coming in to replace those expenses. The project has to be completed before those accounts are balanced out and zeroed out. So in the meantime, on the official books, it looks like the Fish and Game Fund is way, way, way overspent because we don't have $55 million in the coffers.
right.
So that is what has occurred. If they would have made the decision at the beginning of the ARPA program to reimburse the departments as expenses are incurred, like we get reimbursed for federal funds, we would not be in this situation. We are not alone. It's all state agencies are all treated the same. So it's It's moving the paper around, I guess you could say. Does that make more sense?
It
No.
does, but you know what they say, if you say it makes sense, but I'm not sure I could explain it, I don't get it. But I do kind of at arm's length, but
Okay.
I know people pay attention to the money thing, you know, it's interesting. It's not just about the length of the fishing season or that, so, I mean, the public is dialed in. I've learned that, okay? They're really dialed in, so. I was looking for an easy cheat sheet, you know, with about 4 sentences where I could say, I can answer that.
So the ARPA funds greatly exaggerated our budget, reflecting funds that don't really belong to us.
I can remember that.
Okay.
I think,
I-
you can correct me, Kathy, if I'm wrong here, but essentially, we're expending money that is not being
Reimbursed.
replenished into our account. Therefore, our interest on our account is low, which even further impacts us as an agency.
Right.
And because the way the federal grant was set up is we won't be reimbursed until a later date. So as we spend it, it just keeps going down. It keeps taking our funds out of our account, and nothing's being replenished to keep that interest rate higher, which is what we end up using our fishing game fund is the interest.
It's not actual money that
Right.
we're spending
Right.
on the part of Fish and Game at all. It's all a paper exercise.
Yes.
It's an appropriation that we have the authority to spend, and we are.
Right.
Yep.
So on paper, the appropriation is looking like we're in the deficit because it's not being replenished.
Right.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does me. I'm not sure I can convey it, but I'll try.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to get that deep into it, but you deserve an explanation as to why we do not have any interest showing at this point in the year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is the money that you have at the end after expenses, where does that go? Does it just carry on? for travel
After
expenses?
expenses,
The travel expenses?
He's looking at the commission.
oh, the
budget.
commission report, I'm sorry.
I'm
They
sorry.
will lapse to the Fish and Game Fund.
So it goes into?
So they go back into the Fish and Game Fund.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
If I may. I have a question about the negative revenue variances, but setting that aside, on the interest question, so I understand that it's a paper transaction until we're reimbursed, but interest should be paid on actual deposits. So why aren't we realizing a return on?
And that is my argument.
Okay, that's the
That
question.
is my argument.
That's exactly what she's investigating.
Correct. Correct.
So we don't have an answer to that yet, but.
We do not,
Okay.
because they're not quite sure how to show it. All of these transactions, even though it's all on paper for ARPA, they're still within New Hampshire First, the state's official record of account, official financial record. So running reports in New Hampshire First, using all of that information, those are the figures that are being used. And they are very inaccurate as far as what the actual balance in the Fish and Game Fund is.
Okay, if I can ask my
Yeah, go ahead.
question. So it looks like the two big revenue variances are in miscellaneous sales and income to budget, but we're roughly receiving revenue at the same pace as last year. Will we
So-
have a big influx of revenue in the last 90 days?
Commissioner Hodgson, you ask this question almost every year. I appreciate it.
Well, you're the
So-
only one who remembers. I didn't realize I'd asked that question before.
So every single year, we've talked about the internal administrative fees. And the internal administrative charge is processed after June 30th, the first 2 weeks in July, which are actually called the 12 EXT. That's when we have the ability to close out all the books, do all those year-end transactions. So when I process that internal administrative charge against the dedicated accounts, it's deposited into miscellaneous income. And
Okay.
you will see that blow right up on your June financial statement.
So when we think about this in terms of just bottom of the line revenue, this suggests we're about $700,000 off. But we've got federal recoveries, about $500,000. which we
Correct.
should expect to receive.
Mhm.
And we've got 200 plus or minus thousand in miscellaneous sales, which we should expect to receive.
That will be between 3 and 350, I'm
Okay,
quite
3
sure
and
of it.
350. So,
Oh.
in reality, we could conclude that we're tracking towards basically meeting our revenue numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
What I had first indicated, we're a little bit low on licenses,
Right.
and with the reconciled monthly reports, we are a little bit lagging from where we were a year ago, but it's not a huge discrepancy.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not seeing any. Trying to move on to the next part. John, you don't have an idea when we think Bruce is gonna be here?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I just tried texting him. I know that he was particularly
He could be-
passionate about this next part.
He could be jammed up.
In reference to the next one, I do know what Commissioner Temple wants to do.
Yeah,
If I could make a motion on the item.
okay. Yeah, I guess we'll move on to that. Hold on, let me, old business. So address the motion to review RMP number 15 and RMP number 19 under the Commission's resource management and protection policies. Commissioner Gray.
I'd like to make the motion to take, RMP 15 and 19, have them both go to the governance committee to combine the two into one. In other words, take both 15 and 19, change the language around into one item.
Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Any discussion? The motion on the table is to take the RMP 15 and RMP 19, which is about the regulated capture of snowshoe hares, and pass it back to the,
Governance.
Governance Committee, thank you, to further discuss potentially combining them into one item. Any discussion? Go ahead, Commissioner
The
Green.
reason behind it is both items, 15 and 19, have caused confusion. And we're talking with Commissioner Temple, if we take it, put them both into just one item, and use the language, have the committee come up with the language for both into one, so we cut down on the confusion. And then once that's done, bring the language back before the commission.
Any other comments on that?
I might have to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I have some proof. All right, there's at least one person in the room that knows I did read all these minutes, okay? So, she sits down there, so, all right, so 25 years of minutes. In my notes, the discussion regarding hares, I have notes back to 1999, 2002, 2006, 2007, 2009. So I think the discussion is appropriate, and it has been a discussion that, in my reading of minutes, that it's been confusing almost, because on the one hand, capturing wildlife and using it doesn't seem quite right. But on the other hand, and we, this commission in recent times, have had people come and speak to us regarding the tradition, okay? And in my reading, I will stand corrected by biologists in the room that, hares used to be purchased in New Brunswick. Then they were captured, and then the capture evolved to being licensed trappers only capturing them, and then also a limited number of hares. And then in most recent times, on the actual physical inspection of hares within the confines of a compound. So it has evolved, and even with all of that, it still doesn't seem to be very clear. So I think the discussion is appropriate, and I think to take it back to the governance committee to begin with, and then move it forward to the full commission is probably the right way to go. And of course, we will hear from a lot of people about it as well. So,
Go ahead.
I would agree with both of those sets of comments. I would like to see maybe the governance committee to review that and potentially even come back with multiple different potential solutions, maybe combining them. Might be one alternative, but there might be some others, so I wouldn't want to, I'm not gonna say handicap them, but I wouldn't want them to have to come back. Combine one, there may be another way to solve the solution, so maybe if it ends up in that discussion that there's other alternatives, maybe bring all of those back so that we can discuss them at that point. But I completely agree with what they were discussing.
I think his motion could be interpreted that way, that they could have potential multiple single versions of it, and then this commission chooses that, you know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Stahl.
I guess I gotta disagree. This is just, all this is doing is kicking the can down the road. We gotta be big folks here and pony up and do our job. 2 places in our manual, in the commissioner's manual, one says wildlife should be left in the wild. 2 more say, oh, you can go out and fly trap rabbits, head. So what is it? I mean, we're hypocrites. We either get rid of one or both and move on. But kicking it down the can down the road like we're doing right now, okay, next month maybe we'll have a definition from the government committee. They both those policies say the same thing, just a little bit different. It's the same thing. Can you live trap rabbits to train beagles? That's what they both want to do. So we're going to decide on this sometime. So kick it down the road if you want. I'm not going to vote to approve to kick it down the road. I think it's time to only have to say one or the other and move on. But I know last time this issue came in front of us, I was the only one that voted for as state representative had a bill that outlawed live trapping rabbits for running with beagles. I was the only one on the commission that voted to go with that. Everybody else voted against. I don't care. I'm here to represent my county because most of these hares are trapped in my county. No other place. Most of them are right in Coas County. So anyway, I feel as though being the only one out there voting the way I do, I don't have a problem with that. I'm a big boy, I got thick skin. But for us to kick the can down the road, not do our job, and vote one way or the other, I'll shut up there again.
Commissioner Poole.
So I guess I'm going to agree with Commissioner Stoll. I think that, I'm not sure that combining the two, I understand the process, and this has been in notes for the governance committee I had until since 22. But I think that the question at hand here is, the Commissioner just said, is to measure those two positions against what is essentially the first sister of the North American Wildlife Law. And that is really the question at hand. And I guess I would be somewhat concerned as to, so far, the chair of the governance committee, that we'd be working for naught until the commission makes a decision about, is this a yay or nay on trapping in general. Then combining the two, no problem. But if the commission decided, yeah, we're gonna continue with this policy, then that would be, in my mind, certainly a doable thing. But I think the decision needs to be made. The decision here that I think we called for was actually a decision, are we gonna stick with that first sister, or are we going to, support through policy the existing rule, law and rule, actually.
Is there any other commissioners? Commissioner Green?
This became more of a discussion than I thought it would get into, but I understand Commissioner Stoll on the capturing of the rabbit. We did go through legislation, what was it, 4 years, 3 years ago? Something like that. On to totally ban it. I know I worked with a few constituents, the people in the public. Humane Society was one of them. I mean, American Kennel Club was one. We came up with a compromise of having, instead of the, I don't want to get jumped on again by Commissioner Hodge and calling a rabbit. But of having the Eagle Clubs capture a hare and then have the club itself bring a rabbit to a vet of their choice. We made the stipulation in there that it's passed that a fish and game officer would go in, choose a rabbit. The fish and game officer would bring it to a veterinarian of his choice for a health certificate and return it to, the club. The main concern was over the health of the hare. I feel we've accomplished that, presuming Fish and Game is still doing that, correct? But they're checking up. I know what Commissioner Temple's idea of bringing it, the two back to just make it one. To where that would be a decision that we would make on whether do we allow it or not. I know his intent wasn't to have a big debate about that today, but I would like him part of that. So I'd like to keep my motion the way it was.
Any other commissioners? And just for public clarity, even if we change these resolutions today, it still would have to go through rulemaking for anything to ultimately ever change down the road. It's just for clarity's sake. Not seeing any more discussion, the motion on the table is to task the governance committee with RMP 15 and RMP 19 and to bring back a combined or versions of combined versions to the full commission. Is there any more discussion? Go ahead.
You said this is gonna go to rulemaking?
No, if we,
No,
so,
it's not.
yeah, no. I'm saying, let's say we struck these policies. It doesn't change the current regulation unless it was in a rulemaking. Sorry, thank you for, yeah. So to clarify the civics of it, we can have a position right now as a commission on this, but in order for it to take a legal effect, it would have to be done later on through a rulemaking process.
Right.
Thank you for the
It
clarification.
still comes down to the commission has to vote on it.
Yes, exactly, right. Not seeing any more discussion, thank you for helping me clarify that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Please raise your hand if you're opposed. Thank you.
Jean too, you got Jean.
No, thank you. Stoll, Chandler, and Poole. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Moving on to our next part is committee reports. Do any committees have anything to report as of right now? Did you want to, I know you mentioned you might want to do something today, or?
Yeah, I wanted to start off with, bring back something that we started with our committee several months ago in regards to a bio on the website for the fishing.
For clarity, this is Public Engagement Committee. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, for the commissioners to provide a bios for the public on the website for Fish and Game. And the committee pretty much went forward with saying just those who wish to do that, go ahead. If the other ones that do not want to participate, they don't have to. So at this point, we're proposing that it's a volunteer basis of providing a bio on the website.
So does everybody understand what he's saying?
I don't have a clue.
Okay, yeah, let me clarify. So the Public Engagement Committee is exploring the idea of putting commissioner bios up on the website. And what he's saying is that they want to pursue that, but it being voluntary, meaning if you do or do not want, if individual commissioners want their bio on the website. So that's what they've been working on, but Commissioner Green, you want to say something?
Are you putting that as a motion to the committee now, or just taking input?
Putting that as a motion, yeah.
Okay? So you're making it a motion to do that?
As a volunteer basis, yes, for people who want to do it.
Okay, I didn't. So the motion on the table is to make putting commissioner bios up an optional, voluntary thing up on the website. That's the motion from Commissioner Triton. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Hodgson. Discussion. Go ahead, Commissioner.
A few years back, we were requested to do that. And we had then requested to a state rep to give us our bios to the Fishing Game and Marine Resources Committee. In fact, that state rep is sitting right here. Since then, we also were contacted by another group that wanted to do the same thing again. I am totally against that. My reason being, we give our bios to the governor's office, they investigate it, they look into it, they confirm it, that if somebody wants to know our backgrounds, they can go through the governor's office. I don't feel it's necessary to put our bios up on the website. I'm against it.
Any other commissioners?
No.
Go ahead, Commissioner Taylor.
Why?
Public information, basically for people to look and see what our backgrounds are. So when people question whether a person knows enough in regards to what his position is on the board.
Yeah, well, may I comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, in my process of being a commissioner, okay, and I've gone through the process twice, okay, it involved a letter to the governor, a letter to every executive counselor, 2 phone calls in the tenure process to each executive counselor, 2 background checks, okay? In the second go-around, all right, for which I was just reconfirmed, it involved an actual 50-minute discussion face-to-face with the governor and staff, and phone calls to every executive counselor. Okay, so I don't quite understand why a Fish and Game Commissioner would need to post a bio on the Fish and Game website, because then maybe every staff employee should post a bio. If we're talking about providing the information to the public, okay, I just, there's something about it that just doesn't quite match up for me. I just question this process, and I just, ultimately, I don't understand where it's headed or why it is, why it's important. I really don't, all right? Because if you don't trust your executive counselor, okay, because people know who their executive counselor is, and you can call and speak to them, and I don't understand this process, so I guess I'm being a little confused today. okay? I just don't understand the necessity for it.
Any other commissioners wish to comment on this? Go ahead.
So, I mean, my perspective on this is that what I think the committee is suggesting is not publishing a resume or, a detailed summary of your education or your professional background. I think this is intended to be similar to what the legislature does, the House of Representatives does, which is, and frankly, I think less than half the state reps even complete theirs.
They don't.
Probably well less than half, but it's just a basic outline of your civic engagement, your interests, perhaps, your family, if you have children and a spouse, whatever. I mean, I've seen a lot of different examples of this, and I don't think that's unreasonable as a way to better connect the public with the folks who serve on this commission. I do sympathize with and support, I think, the concern you have, which is this should not become an exercise in criticizing someone because they don't have a PhD in biology, and someone believes that is a baseline requirement for serving on the commission, or something of that nature, right? Like, there are a lot of different qualifications in statute for commissioners. Everyone on the commission meets those qualifications. So the question of qualification, I think, is irrelevant, and it should be irrelevant. But I view this just more as a way to create a connection between the folks we represent and the folks on the commission, if it's done properly.
I'm going to let Green go, and then Commissioner Green.
I'm more concerned on the fact that you put a bio up there. You're gonna have groups that will use that actually against you. We get enough information about us that gets put out there into the public. In fact, we just had that conversation about how much the world has changed and how much of our personal information now is out there. Our information goes through quite the thorough background check in order to become a commissioner. Comes through a lot. It's like Commissioner Caveney says. Every executive counselor basically interviews. We have to prove we meet the requirements. And I believe it's still, they contact the colonel for a record check. I do not feel any more information. We've met the requirements to be a commissioner, or you wouldn't be sitting at this table. I am not putting up on a website that I'm married with kids, or how many kids, or how many times I've been married, or my education. I met the requirements to be a commissioner. I don't need any more personal information put out there, because like we all know, once it hits the internet, it stays there. And I'm not gonna have people attack us, especially this commission, because of what organization you're a member of or not. I'm totally against that.
Commissioner Caveney.
To me, and it may not be the perfect analogy, but for a dinosaur like myself, this is like a written posting on a social media page. All right, now anyone in this room can pick up their cell phone and they can Google every name up that sits at this table up front and find out all they need to know about the individual. Okay, what more would they want to know? Okay, I just, to me, quite frankly, it almost seems like it clutters the commission website. Okay, if you don't have and you don't respect what we go through, all right, remember we volunteer to throw our hat in the ring for consideration, okay, and then go through a process that is perhaps like in the modern world, but a multi-step interview process with a lot of hard questions that do get asked. And if you've never gone through it, and you do someday, you'll find out that the executive counselors can be pretty pointed, okay? All right? And I just might say from personal experience, one-on-one with the governor can be pretty pointed. What more do you want? I don't find the necessity of this at all right? And I guess maybe at my age, you call it a bio, I call it a resume, all right? My resume got me to where I'm sitting voluntarily. I don't need to polish my ego by posting all of the things I've done in 50 years of working life. Not necessary. Call me.
My last comment, believe it or not. I understand how you can say, we'll make it voluntary who wants to put it up there or not. And the one example I'll give you about what can happen, even on that, let's say 6 commissioners put their bio up. That leaves 5 commissioners for the public that says, well, why didn't he put his up? What is he hiding? That's what will take place.
If I could comment on this, there's 44 commissions and boards in this country that are similar to New Hampshire Fish and Game, us being one of those 44. 43 of those commission and boards have their bios up. We're the only state that doesn't. I think that also, for clarity's sake, and maybe this motion needs to be clarified or an amendment would have to be added, I don't think that a bio should be put up that an individual commissioner doesn't approve, meaning, if something's going to be written about me, I want to have a say in what's going to be written about me. In fact, I want to be directly involved in that. And that nothing would be forced upon anybody. And again, I recognize the concern about the voluntary aspect, but I would say the same is how come of 44 commissions in the country, what does that say about us that we're one of all 44 that doesn't do it? And I have that exact concern of as an individual, would like to be more transparent. There's some other commissioners that would like to be more transparent. You're in control of your own information. This is not, and I think there needs to be clarity in that. Because I agree, we go through a lot. There's a lot of hurdles. It's stressful. Everybody's been through it in some form or twice in this commission. But I think for that would be my piece to say is that, A, you're in control of what information goes out there, and maybe there needs to be an amendment put on this to make that clear. And 2, I think voluntary is, obviously there's been a few things that I've instilled since I've been chair that have been voluntary. And I believe that individual commissioners have the opportunity to exercise their own authority. I think a chair is just here to conduct a meeting. Point being, that's my saying, or my input rather, which I think, again, I say that as an individual commissioner, not as chair. On my opinion on this topic. Is there any other comments on this topic? Go ahead.
A comment for maybe a later discussion, but I've heard you mention several times the word transparency.
Yeah.
Not just today, but previously.
Yeah.
And that begs a question to me that maybe as a commission we should have a discussion, because apparently you have given me a message, AJ, that you personally feel there's a real lack of transparency in this full commission. And again, a discussion maybe for another day, but thank God my eyes and my ears are still pretty good, and I see it, I read it, I hear it, I remember it. So I'm just pointing that out to you. I think that as volunteers and what we do, we are fully transparent. Whether there's 10 folks in those chairs or standing room only, okay? And everything we say is recorded, everything is written down, and everything is posted. So I will stop on the transparency thing, but I still think the bio thing unnecessary. And 44 other boards in the country, not being a wise guy, this is New Hampshire, okay? I don't think it's necessary. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? So the motion on the table is to make the opportunity for commissioners to voluntarily put their bios up on the website. I'm not seeing any more in discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Let's do a I'm sorry, can we just do a roll call, just so we know, make sure this is accurately represented? Tanya, I will.
Isn't the secretary supposed to do
Yes.
the roll?
Oh,
thank you.
sorry.
Sorry.
Commissioner
I mean, I'm the
McGonigal.
secretary, but.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
secretary.
The secretary.
Motion on the floor, Commissioner Green,
No.
Commissioner Chandler,
No.
Commissioner Keavy,
No.
Commissioner Stoll,
No.
Commissioner DeRosa,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tatone,
Yes.
Commissioner Trahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Poole,
Yes.
and McGonigal is a no.
That is a tie vote. The motion does not pass. All right, any other committee reports? Did you have anything else from public engagement?
No, not now.
Okay. Any other committees have anything else to put forward? All right. Next, we're gonna hand things over to Commissioner Caven.
Thank you very much.
The election. Sorry, I didn't mean to
I've just been waiting.
thrust this upon you, but
No.
thank you. And Commissioner Trahan for the election committee.
Okay, may I proceed?
Oh, do you want to clarify about how we did get a legal counsel answer on the secret ballots, just for
Well,
forever going forward?
Yes, and again, it doesn't matter at this point, but in the history, this was approached once before.
Right.
Okay, and it was the same answer.
Right.
Okay, so, and what the chairman is speaking to is with regard to the election process for chair, vice chair, and secretary treasurer. Ballot vote or voice vote, raised hand, public vote. A ballot vote is a legal process which we can entertain and use. And the question was asked of the AG's office, and it was a written response. So a ballot vote is in fact the proper way to go forward, and that's what we're going to do. So Commissioner Trahan and I talked to all of the commissioners, and to the best of my knowledge, we did, and we overlapped on some, and unfortunately, one of our commissioners was not approached until today, and I'll just take full responsibility for that. Okay, it's my fault. So, but everyone has been talked with. Everybody's been offered the opportunity to toss their hat in the ring, and so. Again, I put together this ballot. If people don't like it, it's all on me, okay? I will, who the hell volunteers to take criticism before it happens, but it's me. So I will pass them out, ask you to circle your choice. I'm gonna also ask you, I feel like Miss Dearborn in the 5th grade, I can't help myself. Just fold them in half, and Dave and I will pick them up, and Dave and I will count them, okay? So, okay, I'm gonna,
Not 12,
so I'll sneak behind you guys.
Do we have clarity on everybody who's running for all commissioners?
You will when you read that.
Oh, okay. Fine.
That's a secret too, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like it to be, I can. I will.
Fifth grade teacher.
All right, before we do this, I'm gonna read the ballot,
Yes.
okay?
That's a blank chair, don't wanna put ballot down there, do you?
No, sir, I don't. I'm worried about handing out 10 of these and getting 15 back. have to figure out what's going on here.
Thank you.
Commissioner JD, you have to provide me one. I can't share with Eric.
Oh,
Although we could. I have
I
a
was
green
thinking of
crayon.
something funny,
He's
but
got a red crayon, but
how did I leave the biggest guy in the room out anyway?
I was hiding.
Can we look at it now, or we gotta wait?
No.
You're allowed to look at it.
We can look at it.
Glasses. It's okay.
And for the public's benefit, we have a ballot. We have, under the chair position, we have two names. We have the current chair, A.J. DeRosa, and we also have Ray Green. For vice chair, we have Chris Hodgson, and for the secretary treasurer's position, we have Pat McConnell. And there is space for write-ins, or if someone were to raise their hand and want to suggest a nomination from the floor, we can do that. There's one.
Also traditionally opportunity to speak, so if you did want to say anything, Commissioner Green, we have traditionally allowed that in the past, so.
Say that again?
Traditionally, when there's been opposed seats, there's opportunity to speak if you wanted to take that, I'm saying. I do
I would
not-
say traditionally then, you're in the chair, you should go first. If you want.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm gonna continue what I'm doing, which is, biggest thing is really relying on the secretary and vice chair, bringing them in with a monthly meeting with the governor's office, so that they can witness, participate, be smarter than me on many occasions, help balance the discussion, same thing with the executive director.
Let's go back.
We've been meeting once a month, having those discussions with those two folks present. I'm a firm believer that being chair is to conduct this meeting in a general agenda and kind of it starts and stops and ends there. I believe that there's 11 capable commissioners in this room, and I think elected to a full term, my goal is to accentuate that part of our representation. Commissioner Green.
I think we put the cat before the.
I know, it's fine, right? We're just symbolically talking now.
My reason of putting in was that I've been a chairman of this commission twice before. Yes, I stepped down for 2 months, and my reason was I wanted to give the opportunity to Mr. DeRosa to step up. And what I have seen, I feel I have always been for this commission first. And what I'm seeing is that now it's become, don't take no offense, Mr. DeRosa, but I wasn't here to please the director. I was here to put the commission first, not the director.
So just to be clear, you're saying that part of my character that you think, you're making objectively saying that you think I put this director first, because I want to be abundantly clear. We're in a public meeting. And so
Yes.
you're saying that my role has been to put the director first.
I'm saying what I am seeing, that there are times that I feel it doesn't come as the commission first. That's why I put my name in.
I think you're abundantly wrong. I put this department first, which is very much why this commission is here.
The what?
I put this department first, which is why this commission is here.
I don't want to get into a debate, but remember,
You're going to attack my character and apply
I'm not
a
attacking
specific,
you, Carol.
you applied a specific agenda
I'll
to
be
what I'm doing.
perfectly clear,
That's all right.
I'm not attacking your
You're
character.
applying a specific agenda to me. And you have every right to do that. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that that's what you're doing, just for clarity. You can do that. I'm not going to be profoundly angry. I'm just countering it by saying that I put this department first. That's why I serve in this commission, is for this department to succeed.
And I serve on the commission, serve on the commission.
Sorry.
It stands. AJ as chair, Chris is vice chair, Patrick is secretary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And to be clear, Commissioner Green, I'm always happy to have those discussions with you. And one thing I said, what I just said in the speech, I want to see each individual commissioner more empowered to go out and do their jobs and to get things done. And I want us to exercise that power more as a commissioner. So maybe we don't fully agree on how to get there on the road, but I certainly appreciate your input on that. But thank you. On the committee reports, last month we did have a motion about fisheries rules that was supposed to be passed on to legislative about pursuing legislation for fisheries rules.
Yeah. I'll take the heat for that.
That's fine, but as long as we,
Not call a committee meeting.
yeah,
The reason is if we can ever get the Assistant Attorney General in this room
Yep.
with the commission, we'll get some answers, hopefully, that will
right,
do that.
which I guess is a nice, good segue. I guess that's a good segue into that question, right?
Yeah, yeah. But the Attorney General needs to be here so that we can meet with our attorney,
Right,
only with our attorney. Transparency is out the window with this particular issue. We're gonna get back into transparency,
right.
because it's simply between us and our attorney. So if we can ever get that meeting set up, and I know you tried,
Yeah. And I think unfortunately, we're actually looking at, I believe, was it the first week of July he was saying that he became available?
Yes.
And that's unfortunately because of this admissions, he's been pulled over onto that case, and I guess somebody stepped down at the AG's office, which is shifted. So unfortunately, we have been put on the back burner. We also have an additional legal question about our budget authorities that I had asked with the two other officers regarding, if you remember, Ray, you made a motion to raise the habitat fees, both of them to $10. We've asked of them about what our full authority is to try to enforce that. So that's another question we have on the board. So hopefully, as soon as we get availability, and Commissioner Stoll has requested that we do that meeting in person. So what we will do is once we get an idea of a schedule, we'll reach out to all commissioners and hopefully find a date that we might have to come in before the next meeting, because I think that this is something we want to get resolved, because to Dave Poole's kind of point of bringing this up, we need to get legislation over to get something in sooner rather than later. And I wonder, Commissioner Stoll, if we start pursuing that.
there's not time to do that quite yet.
Yeah, don't we, yeah, but you have to, in theory, be for
I guess it's
October?
It's-
Yeah,
There'll be a window just following the September primary for House members. And then there'll be another window opening after the general election for all newly elected and all incumbent elected.
Incumbents
Yes.
can file.
Everyone, right, and the newly elected folks can, so there's plenty of time. It'll sneak up on us. And
I wouldn't want to verify that an incumbent may still be an incumbent after the.
right,
maybe we can find an uncontested seat.
Yeah.
Or more than one sponsor, so if
Yeah.
people fall off the roster list.
So anyway, long answer to a short question, is I think that issue will be covered when we finally get together with the Attorney General's office.
Okay. Do you have anything else on that, Commissioner Poole? Because I know that you made this initial motion. Obviously, you want to see this through, and I want to make sure we see this through, so.
Right, I guess I would, so that motion was amended from its initial to go to the legislative committee. And I understand the concerns. What I would not want to have happen is for us to kick this has been pursued for years, for us to kick it so that this does not get to be a legislative opportunity in the coming session. So to the extent that that happens, I'm good. It's just I don't want it to go, personally, I don't want to miss the opportunity to have this, to be a legislative action in this coming session.
So I would say if we, based on that early July meeting, if we don't come out of there the way we want to, then we need to
Then
start
we'll-
pursuing
then
that
we'll
immediately.
Take the isolated.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Is there?
We'll have plenty of time, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Because if you start July, third week in July, that still gives you a few months
Yeah,
to.
August, September.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner reports. Any?
I just,
Excuse me, Chairman, we
Yes.
have one more committee report.
Oh, sorry. Dude, I always do that to you. Yeah, I always do that to you. I'm sorry.
All right.
Seacoast Commissioner.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. From the Advisory Committee on Marine Fisheries, got several items here. It's June 1st meeting. The Advisory Committee on Marine Fisheries unanimously voted to support a license fee increase for saltwater fishing licenses. A letter outlining the action was sent to this commission's chair, vice chair, as well as the chief of Marine Division and to the governor's office. Also, New Hampshire Fish and Game received a grant from the Wildlife Heritage Foundation to cover approximately 75% of the cost to reconstruct the docks down that are at the Coast Guard station in Newcastle. That's where Fish and Game secures all its vessels down there. And the joint enforcement agreement between Fish and Game's Law Enforcement Division and National Marine Fisheries Service has been renewed for July 1st. The agreement allows our conservation officers to enforce federal marine fisheries regulations across state and federal waters. The Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission, the Lobster Management Board formed an industry steering committee for the purpose of reviewing existing lobster stock management objectives and to develop a process to identify new management objectives if necessary. Longtime lobsterman Mike Flanagan of Rye was appointed as the New Hampshire representative to this committee. And Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the Seacoast Commissioner? Commissioner McGonigal.
I was able to attend a few kids fishing derbies in Belknap County recently this last month. Quite a bit of activity, a lot of enthusiasm for it. Most all the organizations had no issues with it being able to get enough fish for the derbies. That wasn't a problem at all. So that was really great. I was able to stop by and participate a little bit with a fly fishing class that we had up at Gunstock, and that was great. A lot of new fly fishermen being born at that, all age groups there, which was great. And I was actually, a coincidence, but I ran into a fish and wildlife steward. So I got to speak with him for quite a while, heard all about the educational program that they're involved, and which I had a little idea of what they did, but not all of it. And that was really great to hear about that program. It's very robust and it's a good program. And lastly, I wanted to comment on the $2,000 donation from the Belmont County Sportsman's Club. It was very interesting in talking to the board members there because they really appreciate the work the department and specifically law enforcement does in the Belknap Range for anyone participating outdoors in any activity and them responding to them if they need assistance up in those woods. So they immediately wanted to note that, and that's why it says in there the Hike Safe donation, because they, even though they are a bunch of hunters and fishermen and trappers and enjoy the outdoors, they recognize that not everyone that is out there is doing one of those things, and they're just outside enjoying the outdoors, and how law enforcement steps in there to help them if they need assistance.
You mentioned woods. You got woods down there?
They are,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
Not as much as you do. We have them in smaller patches.
small patch.
Yeah.
Any other commissioner reports?
AJ, I
Yeah,
just wanted
Commissioner
to, the free fishing day that
Yeah.
we had this year, went out to various ponds, locations, and talked to the public that was out there and stuff, and very receptive of what the opening day for people that just wanted to go out. It was pretty active in most of the Stonehill Pond was one of them. There was
Right,
quite a few people out there and stuff, so a lot of hikers, and actually climbers and stuff that were using the areas and stuff. And it was pretty busy, so it was a pretty good day overall. And stuff in the places that Tuckway, for instance, and that. So that turned out to be pretty good.
Any other commissioner reports? Not seeing any. Director's report.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I want to say, as director of this organization and this agency, it is my mission to help this agency meet its mission and to serve all of New Hampshire and to serve the resources and the natural resources we have. There is no personal agenda here. I want to make that clear on the record because it seems to be insinuated over and over at this commission, and I'm quite frankly upset by it. I am here to serve New Hampshire. I am here to serve the residents, the visitors, and the resources, and to make this agency one of the best agencies in the nation. With that being said, I will talk about the updates. So over the past month, the department advanced several initiatives that highlight our commitment to public access, scientific research, statewide partnerships. We've been proud to host the ribbon cutting at Glen Cove property, which was a huge milestone for this agency and a huge milestone for New Hampshire. It opens a remarkable space for the public to enjoy while expanding our opportunities for access for researchers and for scientists working in the Great Bay region. And it was due in part by many of you on this commission, former directors of this agency, and many of our partners, including the Great Bay stewards. New Hampshire Fish and Game also participated, or is participating, in the America the Beautiful displays, which are being held in Washington, D.C. in coordination with the Bureau of Economic Affairs and the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We are providing information materials to showcase New Hampshire's natural resources and the work we do at this agency. And then contributions from inland fisheries divisions and other programs are ensuring that our state is well represented for this event. So thank you all who contributed materials from your divisions. In addition, inland fisheries staff attended the 2026 New Hampshire Lakes Congress, supporting statewide collaboration on lake management, conservation, and public engagement. Staff from Wildlife and Inland Fisheries also hosted Executive Counselor Karen Lealt Hill for a tour of the Karner Blue Butterfly Easement and the lab, also followed by a visit to the New Hatchery and offering a first-hand look of our conservation works and our operation needs for those facilities. The department also hosted our annual Hunter Education Training event, I should say. During that event, we honored and recognized Richard Wright of Newbury, New Hampshire for an extraordinary 60 years of volunteer service to this agency. 60 years, it's amazing. It's an exceptional milestone. That reflects his dedication and community spirit to sustain our programs. From Inland Fisheries, the Inland Fisheries Division has been actively stocking trout statewide, with most hatcheries nearing the end of their season. The 4 public information sessions and subsequent constituent meetings that we had on the fisheries rules and the fee adjustments were productive, and staff are now working with legal coordinator to enter and organize and summarize all of that public input on the trout pond and fee proposals. And proposal revisions are underway and will continue as comments are reviewed and as we move forward on this. The division is interviewing candidates for 2 vacant programs. These are vacant lead positions, the warm water fisheries program and the cold water fisheries program. So with any luck, we will fill those positions, which will be a huge asset for the division. And then fisheries biologists have obviously partaken to their summer field season. They're conducting stream and river surveys across Coos, Grafton, and Sullivan counties. Seasonal staff have been trained on safety, data collection, and field protocols, and we have many returning staff which are beginning immediately. Our field surveys actually began June 1st. From the Wildlife Division, the Non-Game and Endangered Wildlife Program, the program continues implementing nationally competitive NFWF grants to improve aquatic connectivity, reduce wildlife road mortality, and enhance public safety and address flooding risks. We've been getting good support through the governor and council process on those grants that we had funded through that multi-million-dollar project. Fieldwork is ongoing for species recovery involving landing spotted eastern box and wood turtles, which we just came out of Turtle Week, National Turtle Week. Black racers, corner blue butterflies, and coastal birds, including piping plovers, least terns, and common and roseate terns on the Isles of Shoals. Staff are also meeting with state, municipal, and private partners in cooperative beach management for piping plovers and recreation. We've been working very closely with Hampton Beach on the piping plover program. The game program, programs you all heard from Allie, the biometrician, who presented last month. So they're still digging into the first year of mandatory online fur bearer registration. It's improving, obviously, our insight on the harvest data and the quality of the data and the timing and methods used. But staff also presented updates at the Hunter Education Volunteer Instructor event, the training program, including the fisher mortality study, the turkey banding initiative, and progress on the big game management plan. We also had several of our efforts highlighted in the Wildlife Society newsletter, in particular the turkey program, so that was pretty exciting for our staff. The Habitat program is planning to prepare for 5 different mulching and mowing projects on WMAs to maintain the young forest habitats. We've got road repairs going on, and they're completed now at Great Bay WMA and the William B. Ruger Jr. South WMA. I guess that was about 5 miles of road work that needed to be repaired there. Boundary survey continues, particularly on the 240-acre Pincher WMA. Engineering proposals are underway for repairing the damaged stream crossings at Scott Bog Road Extension in the Connecticut Lakes Natural Area. Law Enforcement Division, it's been busy. The Law Enforcement Division, so first of all, we had a special detail support the memorial and military burial service for a retired sergeant from District 2. But we also had a contingency of we had a small detail go up to Maine and support the funeral services for Maine Game Warden Tibbetts. Search and rescue efforts continue. We've been supporting Concord police detectives on a cold case missing person, utilizing the dive team, side scan sonar team, and the drone team. We've also been very involved in several different search and rescue missions, including 2 cases involving elderly individuals with dementia. In one case, our K-9 team successfully recovered that individual. We've had District 1 just recently conducted a 2-day search on Mount Washington for a missing retired veteran near Tuckerman Ravine. Offers assisted a injured hiker on Bottom Cliff with a broken leg, and the Army National Guard was called in to conduct extraction due to the remote location. We also searched for a juvenile from Connecticut who was, a Connecticut school group was up visiting. They were carried out after a fall on an old bridle path. We had a missing hiker in Hart's location. They were located after an overnight search as well. Full day rescue was required for a hiker suffering a medical emergency on Falling Waters Trail. And we had officers responding to Cannon Cliffs for a climber injured by falling rocks. The climber was stabilized, carried out in a litter, and transported for treatment. Lots of rescues going on. We have officers currently participating in numerous community events, including the National Night Out, local home day events and activities. We have officers in Coos, Merrimack, and Cheshire counties responding to an uptick in ATV and UTV crash investigations on the trail systems. And in our hiring news, we have background checks completed for 2 conservation officer candidates, and both are moving on to the final steps, including the polygraph and physical fitness testing before scheduling their formal swearing in. So things are moving forward. Public Affairs has been extremely busy. They launched a new website for the Advisory Committee on Marine Fisheries featuring the meeting schedules, their minutes, and member information. The link to that page can be found on the Fish and Game page, and this is the group that is a advisory group for the commission. So now, if you go to our commission's Fish and Game page, you go there, you can click down below at the bottom of the page, there's a link to the Advisory Committee on Marine Fisheries. The education unit just completed the 2020, well, participated, I should say, in the 2026 New Hampshire Environmental Literacy Plan, and it was released. I sent it all to you via PDF today. It was released. It basically outlines statewide goals for expanding environmental learning, supporting educators, and integrating literacy into our curricula in New Hampshire. Our education unit staff, Lindsay Webb and Laura Ryder, served on the planning team, with Lindsay Webb continuing on the implementation of this plan. As you mentioned, we had several workshops going on. One of them was the Becoming Outdoors Woman program, held a Beyond BOW Intermediate Fly Fishing Weekend in Pittsburgh for 12 participants, along with an introductory Let's Go Fishing weekend over at Coleman State Park. In the director's office, the legal and legislative liaison, she's been hosting the governor's interns for an overview of administrative rule processes and tours of the headquarters building. Also continuing to monitor our legislation that's affecting the agency. Filed fiscal impact statements for FIS 1109 and FIS 1200. Filed adoption amendments for FIS 603.08 striped bass, 603.15 bluefish, and FIS 603.26 Atlantic mackerel. And we withdrew the FIS 404 and FIS 1100 for the time being. Also filed rulemaking notices for FIS 1201, 1202.02, and 1109.13. The Federal Aid Coordinator has submitted our NOAA Coastal Management Act grant applications. They've also met with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on boat access and hunting and fishing R3 priorities and projects. They're continuing to monitor our performance reports, deadlines, and notifying project leaders of those deadlines. And they have also processed multiple grant actions, including an interim NOAA reports, WISPR annual reports, continuation requests, and one new grant submission. From the director's desk or the director's office, we continue meeting with several stakeholder organizations. We held the license suspension hearings over this last month. As I said before, we hosted the 4 successful public discussion sessions related to the fee adjustments and FIS 400 related rules. As part of that process, we conducted several surveys, 2 surveys in particular, one on fee adjustments and one on the fish habitat program. Both surveys have provided excellent feedback, I think, for the department to use moving forward. I do want to take a minute to thank everyone who participated in those public discussions and in those surveys. It's extremely helpful to have the public involved. It's valued, and I look forward to continuing that process with folks. At this point, we're going to be focusing on expiring rules as we finish out this calendar year. There are quite a few of those actually that are coming up due. We will be posting, I wanted to mention also, we will be posting a tentative schedule for rules on our website so that the public is aware when we might be bringing rules forward. That will be posted after July 1st because we want to include the rules that may need adjustments due to current legislation that is in process. We still have a few things lingering. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that we are also preparing our capital budget hearing. It's this week, so we're preparing our capital budget discussions. And while we have many needs, we are only requesting $1,075,000 specifically for renovations of the Sewell Falls building, that's in Concord, the facility in Concord, the restoration of the Lancaster Armory, and the replacement of the bunker barn in Durham, which many of you visited last summer. Outcomes of that work is basically, with that capital money, we will be able to improve security, we will be able to enhance our operational readiness, we'll be able to provide more office space, lab space, and training space, and we'll also improve the safety of our staff in those buildings, and then reduce long-term maintenance costs. And I guess in conclusion, I do want to mention, Commissioner Stoll, you might want to take a walk to the back of the conference room at some point today. You might find something that will
Look
bring
at
a
that baby
smile
back
to your
there.
face.
Not Diane, I'm not talking about you, Diane.
Thank you.
I wish she's referred to is our plaque names are finally updated, if you commissioners want to see that in the back. Call to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name's Representative Catherine Harvey. I represent Chester 6, which is Chesterfield, Hinsdale, and Westmoreland. A couple comments. First of all, congratulations or condolences, I'm not sure which, to the new officers. Thank you for your continued service, and good luck. If there's anything I can do to help you along your way at any time, you know how to find me. A couple comments. No organization will ever do well or will even survive if everyone has a personal agenda. Every organization must move in the same direction, and there is usually, just like here, some sort of mission statement that points the way. And if you listened carefully to the director's report, you can see that this organization does just that. And I commend the staff, the commissioners, the officers, and the director to making sure that this organization moves in the direction to protect our outdoors. Thank you for that. I almost didn't come here today, and I'm glad I did, because my name was invoked, and maybe in not so, in a little bit of a subtly negative way, and I feel like I need to defend myself today. That's a strange position for me to be in. In relationship to the bios, so I belong to, you know me as a legislature, but I belong to Cheshire County Conservation District. I belong to New Hampshire Library Trustees Association. I belong to Cheshire County Delegation. I chair that. I belong to UCC Church in Peterborough. I'm the organist there. I am a CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocate Guardian Ad Litem. And all of those organizations, plus some others that haven't required me to do so, have asked for my bio. And I've been happy to submit it. I write it, so they get what I give them. I could make it up if I wanted to and tell them that I was the Queen of Sheba or something. But I put in whatever I want on my bio. I am actually quite proud to tell everyone, the entire world, that I have been happily married to the same man for 53 years, that I have 4 sons, 4 daughters-in-laws, 10 grandchildren, one of which lives in heaven. And I make no apologies for that, and I'm glad to put that out there. Besides that, on my bios is usually my phone number and my email, so anybody in the world can find me. There was a time when I chaired Fish and Game, and yes, Representative Bob LaRue, who you all gave a yearly award to as Representative of the Year, and I did look into the resumes, not those simple bios about who was married to whom and so forth, but the resumes of the people on the commission. We did so in a positive way, not to defame or make fun of or disrespect anybody on the commission. Some of you might have been on the commission when that happened. If you weren't, let me refresh your memory. A bill had been brought forth by a legislator, not me, and it was a bill that wanted to add many, many, many qualifications to commissioners that had nothing to do with Fish and Game. She had put them in 3 columns. There were things like campers, equestrians, bird watchers, canoeists, cyclists, all kinds of things that have nothing to do with Fish and Game. And you were to pick 1 from column B and 2 from column A and 3 from column C, just like you would at your favorite Mexican restaurant. I helped defeat that bill with those resumes that Representative Bob LaRue and I collected because we could prove to the Fish and Game Committee that the commissioners that were there serving at that particular time were well qualified, that had the background that would be needed to make the proper decisions as they moved forward on Fish and Game. We were not looking to demean anybody. And because of that, I was able to defeat that bill in committee. It never came out of committee or went to the floor. So I felt today that there was a slight hint that that information had been collected by Representative Bob LaRue and myself for nebulous purposes, and I want to assure you that it was not. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm going to be a couple minutes. I think you're good. All right. I have more visuals for you. Sean Graves, Spofford, New Hampshire. Two things first. Shout out to Kyle Glencross. He came down to Keene High School and took a bunch of disabled kids and their helpers out fishing at Robin Hood Park. It was an extremely good program that Kyle runs as a Take Me Fishing program. Also, shout out to Diane Timmons, who joined a podcast to help explain all of the previous trout ponds and fee increases, which was absolutely phenomenal. It was a huge success. Now, another note here. I'll let you guys keep in. Those will be coming in a minute. And I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I actually agree with Kathy Harvey on the bios. Other than that, I vehemently oppose 99% of the stuff she says. People have a right to know who's representing them. I mean, literally, your job is to represent your counties. There's no fear in allowing people to know who you are or what you're doing. You know, you mentioned the word transparent a number of times, which is fine, except you expect Fish and Game to be transparent to you. Why can't you be transparent to the public? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And then, hold on, I got to get to page 3 here. Yeah, so the commission literally serves the people in their county. And I mean, I don't understand why you would not want to be transparent in that. I am extremely disappointed in the meeting cancellation that was supposed to take place on June 3rd. You know, there's a guy named Richard Henry Lee. Anybody know who Richard Henry Lee is? He's from the state of Virginia. He was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Actually, he was the deciding vote on whether or not they were going to discuss the Declaration of Independence. His quote is, "There's nothing so dangerous as we cannot talk about it." Okay? And so to cancel the meeting, there's no reason to do that. We could certainly discuss whatever was on the tablet to talk about that night. If it wasn't going to move forward, that's fine, but there's no reason why we can't have that discussion ahead of time. And then, I got to find my notes here, hold on. Okay, so somebody mentioned the fly fishing, that it was very exciting. There was a lot of people fly fishing. That's awesome, okay? Fly fishing is a microcosm of what's happening in the state of New Hampshire in terms of fishing. What I gave you was the bass economic impact on tournament fishing in the state of New Hampshire. So in 2016, there was a survey done. Granted, I would love to see an updated survey, but I can guarantee that these numbers have only increased for bass and decreased for trout. Okay? What species do you fish for? Overall, 62% largemouth. Smallmouth bass, 59%. Rainbow trout, 57%. Brook trout, 49%. Brook trout wild, 40%. Brown trout, 38%. Preferred to fish for? Largemouth bass, 39%. Rainbow did tie largemouth bass there at 39%. Smallmouth, 31%.
brook trout 23. Open water fishing, largemouth bass 24%, rainbow trout 13%, smallmouth bass 11%, trout 10%. So first, I would love not to have a trout versus bass discussion. But unfortunately, the last couple meetings that we've had, it appears that, trout is a very squeaky wheel. Okay, we got a guy up there in the North Country podcasting, talking about emergency meetings that he's having. Okay, that's not reality. Okay, if you look at the sheet that I gave you, all right, we have a number of bass tournaments in the state. So I broke it down by a couple things. Broken down by resident versus non-resident, club tournaments versus open tournaments. A club tournament is a tournament on 15 boats and under. An open tournament is 15 boats and larger. Now, when I did these, I erred on the side of caution on the numbers. Okay? So, a club tournament, which is a one-day tournament, 99% of the time it's a one-day tournament, we have 244 club tournaments in the state of New Hampshire, residents. Okay? Multiply that by 10 boats, which is basically an average of what a club tournament would be. So, for instance, my club, in one club I fish, we have 12. In another club I fish, we have 14. But there are smaller clubs that might have 7 or 6. So we arrived at 10 as a median number. When we do the new Fish and Game computer deal, okay, we can get a much more accurate number of exactly how many boats are at each of these tournaments, and we can get a real average. I use the number 10. Okay? Open 2-day tournaments, these are 15 boats plus. They average someplace between 25 and 40 boats. I went to 30. Okay, again, a little lower than I expected. So that is 660 boats. So a one-day tournament, okay? Now, you may not know how much some of these bass boats take for gas, okay? My tank is 56 gallons of gas, okay? I average, some boats have 20 gallons, some boats have 56 gallons. We arrived somewhere at 30 gallons for a tournament day, okay? So you multiply that from the current gas price at $4.50, you come out with $1,350 worth of gas. Now you multiply that times the 2,400 boats that we have coming to the state of New Hampshire, you're looking at $3.2 million that resident anglers are spending on gas in the state of New Hampshire. Now, some of those resident anglers have to travel to the North Country. They might stay someplace. So we said, let's say 1/3 of those 2,400 boats stay someplace. That's 81 nights at $10,000. A 2-day open tournament at 30 boats, which would be 60 gallons of gas times $450 times 270 times the 30 boats, which is $1,215 times these 660 boats that fish open 2-day tournaments is $801,000. Lodging. Let's say we have the 30 boats, 660 boats total, 2-person teams most of the time. That comes out to $4.9 million. Non-resident, now that's just the residents. Okay, non-resident tournaments, we only have 133 tournaments for non-residents coming to the state of New Hampshire, which averages out at 10 boats a tournament for a club tournament at 1,300 boats, basically. For a 2-day tournament, we have 13 tournaments times 30 boats, that's 390 boats. Okay? Now, the economic impact for a club tournament on gas alone, this is just for the boat, is almost $1.8 million. Lodging is somewhere around $6,000. A 2-day tournament for out-of-state is $473,000, or if they're staying overnight, $2.9 million. That's a grand total, somewhere in the ballpark of $9 million that bass tournaments deliver to the state of New Hampshire overall economic impact. These do not include their truck gas, which is almost, well, we'll get to that second. Boat registration, weed stickers for in-state and weed stickers for out-of-state. In-state and out-of-state licenses, tackle that they might purchase in the state of New Hampshire, not including food and beverages. All right? For instance, I just went to Lake Champlain, and I spent 2 days up there. All right? My boat gas cost me $250. My truck cost me $200 in gas, and my lodging was $180 for $680. That's just one trip to Lake Champlain for an open tournament. I plan on probably going 2 more times. So I say all this to say this. I know that there are certain commissioners that believe that trout is the way for the state of New Hampshire. I'm here to tell you, if you get the bass fishing squeaky wheel going, the economic impact that bass fishermen have far outweigh the impact of the trout fishermen in the state of New Hampshire. Okay? I didn't get the information, but I'm assuming that our stocking program exceeds the cost to ratio of the money that we have coming in for stock trout. That's all I got. Yes, sir.
And ask.
Yeah, he's literally my next door neighbor.
When you enter a tournament,
Yes, sir.
all right, you win the tournament.
Correct, sir.
You won a lot of tournaments.
Yes, I have.
What do you get for that?
I get money,
Money.
but I have to pay an entry fee.
Okay.
Yep.
So you get to win money by utilizing our natural resource.
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's your point? Did you have a point, John?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay. Well, we might as well do it right now. Get it out in the open.
Yeah,
That's all right.
I don't think we can do this.
Right.
We can't
Okay.
engage.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, if you guys can connect after.
On another note, I have also
Point of
heard.
order. Point of order.
Yeah.
Also, that, and I apologize for this, I can guarantee you that any self-respecting bass fisherman would not go and put bass in bodies of water, such as Dublin Lake or Willard Pond. I know that came up at those other meetings, and I apologize for anybody who stocked those fish. I disagree with that vehemently. And I know those fisheries were impacted by the stocking of bass.
Question here.
Yes, sir.
On your gas figures here,
Yep,
see, non-residents,
yep.
you're making the assumption that they're purchasing their gas.
That
in
is
New
true.
Hampshire.
But I will tell you that when you drive here, you might not get and I agree with you 100%. Not all that gas is purchased in the state of New Hampshire. That's true.
And so,
But when you stay overnight, you are filling your boat up the next day.
what's your burn rate per hour on gasoline?
I have no idea. So, for instance, I have a 56-gallon tank. I went to Lake Champlain. Granted, Lake Champlain is bigger than what we have here. I went through almost all 56 gallons, which cost me almost $250 to refill my tank. I mean, that's really neither here nor there. My point is that there's a new group of people that are fishing in the state of New Hampshire. I mean, and no offense to anybody here on the commission, but you guys are getting old, okay? And bass fishing is a new sport. It's actually not a new sport. It started in the 60s. But it is the #1 fish in the state of America, in the United States of America. The #1 sought-at fish is largemouth bass. Okay, it is not a brook trout. It's not a rainbow trout. And as a committee and as Fish and Game, I think we need to start paying closer attention to the number of warm water fishermen in our state. And I fly fish. I love fly fishing. I go trout fishing all the time. But it does not bring in the economic impact to the state of New Hampshire that bass fishing does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Any other questions?
Sorry, can I just make one point?
Yes, go
That,
ahead.
Just so folks know, this is only part of the data. I just think it's important to note that. That we are, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, on our backside, thank you.
Just know that since this, we now have 555 tournaments, and I think when I did the summary for Sean for the data, he did all of this, I only did the from end form, it was only 505, so, just so you know.
Thank you.
Hi. Linda Diane Raymond, and hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone again. Mr. Cavaney just kind of made a point, which was kind of interesting, about this man profiting off our natural resources. Trapping, that's what it's all about, and I'm here to talk about trapping. So that was kind of interesting that he brought that up. Trapping is still market hunting. They sell their product. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. Market hunting, we got rid of that years and years ago. Director Simic, did you get my postcard? Okay. So did you share it? Does everybody know about the postcard? Or you want me to talk about it? I'm sorry. Oh, okay, so and you're gonna be getting more of these anyway, but it's, yeah. Okay, so it's a postcard, and it is about trapping and hunting fur bearers, and that they are needed for tick control. And the compassion angle didn't work, so maybe this angle will work. The postcard is asking for a moratorium on trapping and hunting fur bearers, or actually, well, no, fur bearers that control ticks, especially foxes that we know are declining. Fisher, we don't have many fishers. And, you know, opossums. One time I saw a picture of a trapper. He had a big line of opossum pelts. That's not right. Anyway, if you saw Bobby Kennedy, he came to New Hampshire a couple of weeks ago talking about ticks. Last night on the news, I don't know if you saw that on the news last night, that man who, he just got, a New Hampshire man, and he just got a tick disease. And it's very serious. And he got it when he was out turkey hunting in May, which is kind of ironic because turkeys eat ticks also. But this is about the fur bearers, and we're asking for a moratorium. And there'll be more postcards coming to you. I think that, that's probably about it. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the July meeting with the commission.
Say that again so everybody can hear.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the July meeting for the commission.
Commissioner Train's making a motion to not have a July meeting. Do I have a second?
We discussed having an issue, a meeting with the Attorney General. I mean, if we don't have a meeting, we can't have that discussion.
Yeah, well, that first of all, I think is not gonna happen on a commission day, but also if nobody seconds it, then this is the
In July, it's not even gonna happen on a commission day?
Well, right now, nobody seconds the motion, so I don't think that. Is there a second? Not seeing anyone?
Motion fails.
Motion fails. Motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
go ahead.
I have one thing. I'd like to publicly invite the director to attend the Connecticut Lakes Advisory Committee meetings up there. Our constituents, 100 and some odd thousand acres of land up there, our constituents, the hunters, the fishermen, the trappers, snowmobiles, ATVs, we regulate an awful lot of activity on that piece of property. Who showed up? The Dred Commissioner showed up. Now the Insurance Commissioner showed up. We don't have the Fish and Game Director there. I personally think that the director should be there. I know we can't order her to be there, but I think she should be there.
Okay,
Thank you.
Now my motion to adjourn?
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.